Hello everyone, I want to do a quick video on how I do my no-show belt loops to possibly help out any other fursuit makers to figure out how to do them. So first things first, I like to measure out the opening of your tail. So first, obviously sew and stuff your tail. Sometimes I leave an opening right along the back to stuff it with. I didn't on this one since I'm just going to ladder stitch it all together. But yeah, we have the base that we start with, and then we can look at this and see about how big the end cap needs to be. So I measure out the end cap and make a EVA foam circle, and that way I can attach my base cap. Either I can use or make it just like plain black like this one is. This is how the commissioner wanted it. Or I could do a gore cutaway to make it look all fancy. So I attach the minky just to the EVA foam. I score the EVA foam and just glue it right on. And then I make the minky tube. This is what your belt actually goes into. I like to use a color that's very similar to the actual like base color, so if you do see it, it's not showing that much. Honestly, you can use any color. It's not that bad if you do see it. It's really hard to see unless you're really looking for it. Here's what it looks like with the belt actually in it. I had to do this off camera because I'm filming this with one hand right now. But yeah, the belt just slides right in through the tube and right out the other side. I always make my tubes big enough to fit a 2-inch belt. This belt is the widest belt I have, and it's 1.5 inches. I know a lot of other fursuit makers and a lot of other fursuiters use this type of belt because of how adjustable it is, and I really like it for fursuiting. So that's how it looks. So it will go in through this tube. The tube is sandwiched in between the EVA foam, and then I use a 1/2 inch of normal upholstery foam. You can also use inch. And this just kind of secures everything in place, and like literally this tube is not going to go anywhere. So that's just kind of how it looks. I also leave a nice little bit of seam allowance all the way around when I'm gluing on the minky cap. That way I have enough seam allowance to ladder stitch it onto the base here. So another note I have is that for the tube, I like to place it in kind of the upper quarter, not perfectly center it. You can perfectly center it, but oftentimes I've found if you place it a little bit above center, it helps the tail lay more flush with the body and it looks a little bit nicer. This is especially helpful for larger base tails. For smaller base tails like this one, sometimes you kind of have to do center or very close to center. Like I've done even smaller bases than this, and you kind of just have to work with what room you have. And one final note before I actually show how to actually like attach it on, I like to have the minky coming down. So I think if you're wearing it like this, the minky will be going down towards the ground. For the pile like direction in the tube, it really doesn't matter. You can do it any direction. And now for actually putting it on the tail, I like to kind of just squeeze it into the base here to kind of figure out exactly where I want it to line up. Right now it's looking pretty good. It's all lined up. So what I'll do is I'll add a pin that goes into here, into the foam to hold in place, and I'll do another one right here. Then I also like to add ones like right here, right here, right here, and right here. That kind of keeps it all in place. And after that is all done and it's kind of in place, I like to go, it's really hard to do this with one hand, but I like to go and kind of, let me see here. Boop. I like to move this and see exactly where I want the tubes to lay inside of the tail. So I'll go and I will trace a line where exactly the tube lays and how big the tube or thick the tube is. And I generally put them kind of where the end of my thumb is. So you have about maybe a little bit less than an inch length between the base and the tube. Alrighty, now I have this pinned in place and I've marked my little lines. Half the time, I normally don't mark the lines at all. I just kind of guesstimate and it works pretty well. But you can see that white line right there is the length of the tube, and that is where I'm going to be cutting. I did mark the white. You can't really see it all that much. But I will be cutting across this line in there. Get it back. But yeah, I'll be cutting a line right in here, and then I'll be sticking this tube through that. Alrighty, I now have both tubes in place. So as you can see, I have cut a hole in the fabric and the tube is going through there. You can kind of see it a little bit better on this side. There we go. So that's how it looks there. Did the same over on this side. And the tube is going through there. Alrighty, so the next step I do is I ladder stitch this entire base all the way around onto the fur. I leave these tubes long. The tubes are the very last step in this whole process. So I am going to ladder stitch this all the way around, and then I will come back. If you guys would like a ladder stitch tutorial, there are plenty online, but I can also make one if you would guys like. Alrighty, so now I have this base ladder stitched all the way around. This entire thing is all closed up. I like to go to the final step, and that is actually sewing these tubes together. I like to work with one tube at a time. So first things first, as you can see, I've left it a lot longer than I actually need. I like to go and cut this tube just a tiny bit above where I actually need it. That's going to be our seam allowance, and I just cut it straight across. Alrighty, now as you can see, I have cut the tube straight across, and now I am going to start ladder stitching all the way around here. And I ladder stitch it twice because there is going to be a lot of movement in this area. There's going to be a lot of tension. With ladder stitching it twice, it really helps to secure everything in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it like this and then just ladder stitch it all the way around. And with that, I have this tail completely finished. As you can see, this hole is completely stitched up. And like I said before, it is doubly stitched, so it is very, very secure. This is where your actual belt goes, like that. As you can see how it's all smoothed down on the other side, you can't even tell that it's there. But I really hope this helps, and if you guys have any extra questions, feel free to reach out, and I'm glad to help.